Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. Today we're talking about Terraforming Mars. This is the Ares Expedition. Alright, this is designed by Jacob Frixilius, Nick Little, and Sydney Engelstein, and also published by Stronghold Games and Frix Games. This is a standalone sequel, kind of distilled version of Terraforming Mars. That was basically a card game with a big board in the middle of it where you had kind of an area control thing going on. This is also a card game, but kind of
with a small thing in the middle.
With a small thing in the middle. So yeah, you are basically trying to terraform Mars by raising the heat, raising the oxygen level, trying to add oceans to the planet so that way everybody can survive and live on Mars. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to play. Alright, here is our basic setup for Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. This is our main player board over here. We've got our temperature tracker over here. We have our oxygen tracker over here. And we have our 9 ocean tiles here in the middle of the board that we need to flip over. We also have our 5 action tiles right here. So basically what's going to happen is, at the beginning of every turn, every player is going to choose one of those actions to take. What they're going to do is they're going to put that down, face down in front of them, and simultaneously we are all going to reveal what our action that we selected was. And then we're going to flip over every single one of these tiles that corresponds to what someone chose. So for instance, if I chose number 1, let's say Bethany chose 3, it's going to look something like that. Now every player is going to go down this line, and every tile that has been flipped over in order, we're all going to take those actions. But whoever has the card in front of them that chose that action gets to take a kind of an extra bonus version of that action. So for instance, whoever chose the number 1 gets a discount on playing these green cards. And I'll kind of walk through these in here in just a moment. But essentially, we're all going to get a chance to place all those actions that have been flipped over. We're also going to start the game with a hand of cards. There's going to be 8 of these terraforming cards, and basically they can kind of do a variety of things. So the green cards are mainly about kind of production, things like that. This one says it's going to produce 3 heat every turn. It also gives you 2 victory points, which is fantastic. These are the tags that it provides over here on the left side column. But right kind of underneath the title of the card, it's going to give you some prerequisites. This particular one requires 3 of those science tags, as you can see there, in order to play that. The blue cards, a lot of times they'll give you actions or some kind of effects. This particular one says, for spending an action to add a microbe to this card. And at the end of the game, this is going to be worth 1 victory point per 3 microbes on this card, as you can kind of see there, while the planet symbol. Alright, also all the costs are going to be the top left. This particular one has an effect. This is going to be a standard ability. Every time you play a standard action, it's going to give you a discount of 4 of those MCs, those mega credits. These red cards I want to talk about. These are one-time benefits. They have this little kind of red arrow. It basically means it's like an event that's happening. In this case, a giant ice asteroid is hitting Mars. We're going to be able to do whatever it says. This particular one says, raise the temperature 2 steps, and also flip over 2 ocean tiles. So those are kind of the 3 cards you're going to come across, the red, the green, and the blue. Every player is going to have a personal player mat over here. Basically, you're going to be able to see all your different productions. So right now, we're not producing anything on our production terms, but if we were able to raise that up and raise that up a few turns, then when we did number 4, which is the production phase, we'd be able to take whatever this gave us. The blue ones are cards, being able to draw cards. Red is heat. Green is plants. The yellow is the MC, or those mega credits. But also, what you're going to get is you're going to get whatever your terraforming rating is, which is kind of your score on the track. You're going to be able to add that to whatever you're producing in the MC, and that's going to give you how much money you're going to get. You're going to take these tokens here. We have 1s, 5s, and 10s, and they aren't specific to any type of resource. They just go in these different categories. So, for instance, if we were to gain 2 heat, we put 2 there. If we were to gain 2 money, we would go there. The location of where you put those determines what kind of resource they are. Let's go over some of the actions that you can take real quick here. All right, so number 1 action, this is the development. This is going to allow you to play a green project card. And again, everyone gets to do that top ability. You, as the person who played this card, will be able to get a 3 MC discount. All right, so let's go to construction. This allows you to play either a blue or a red card. And the bonus for being the one who played this card, you can either draw a card or you can play an additional blue or red card that round, which is nice. Alright, the number 3 is the action. This allows you to activate all your actions. There's also standard actions as well. On the bottom of your player ability here, there's some different costs and some rewards as well. For instance, it says you can pay 20 mega credits in order to gain one of these victory points. It's kind of these greenery tiles. They're worth a point apiece, Plus, they also raise the oxygen level because they are kind of forest tiles. Speaking of raising the oxygen level, or any of those things on the board here, any of the things that progress the game towards the end are also going to raise your terraforming rating. So if you were able to raise the temperature, that would also raise your terraforming rating. If you were to flip over an ocean, you take whatever the rewards are on the back of that card, and then also raise your terraforming rating. And remember, your terraforming rating is not only victory points, but it's also going to be income added to your mega credit production every production phase. There's some other standard actions available as well. You can turn in heat to raise the temperature. You can turn in mega credits to gain oceans, and you can turn in 4 plants to get another one of those greeneries. Also, let's go to the production phase. We kind of mentioned that earlier, but basically, this is how you're going to get a lot of your money. Whatever your production is, you're going to gain all these values. Also, if you're the person who played it, you're going to get 4 extra mega credits. You have to pay attention, though, because there are some cards that will give you some kind of production, but they're variable. They say things like, for every one of the earth tags on your cards, gain a heat, or something like that. So then you have to kind of, each time you play that production phase, you have to go through and count all of your earth tags so you know how much heat you produce. And the last resource I want to talk about is cards. Cards is also one of the actions here. So this just basically says you're going to be able to draw 2 cards from the deck over here, and you're going to keep one of them. But if you're the person who plays this card, you can draw 3 additional cards and keep 1 additional card. So basically, you can draw a total of 5 cards, and out of those, keep 2 of them. There's also lots of ways that you can modify this with the cards. So maybe you get a chance to maybe draw 6 cards, keep 3 of them, or whatever that looks like. So we're going to keep on selecting those different actions, taking all those different actions simultaneously, and then trying to raise all the different terraforming parameters of the planet, flipping over the oceans as well as changing the oxygen and the temperature. The game is going to end once all 3 of those things have maxed out. You've reached the final end of the temperature track, the final end of the oxygen track, and all 9 oceans have been flipped over. At that point, you're going to finish out the round, whatever that looks like, and then you're ready to count up your score. Your score is going to be a combination of 3 things. It's going to be how much your terraforming rating is, also how many of those greenery tiles you have, and then also anything points that are on cards. Some cards are just going to be worth points straight up. Might say 2 points on that card. But other cards might say things like we saw earlier, for every 3 microbes on this card, you get that many points. You're going to add up all those points, and whoever has the most points wins the game. Also, I want to point out at the beginning of the game, there are these different corporation cards. What's going to happen is you're going to be dealt 2 of these cards, and you get to choose one of them and start the game with. They're going to give you some starting resources, maybe some starting production, some starting special abilities. This particular one says you start with 40 mega credits. You can kind of show that there as well. There's also a special ability that says if you're ever playing the phase 5, where you get to draw cards, you get to look at and keep an additional card, which is fantastic. So they're all different. They all kind of exploit a different part of the game, kind of give you some rule-breaking things or extra resources.
All right, we're going to talk about this a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about our thoughts on the game as it is, and then Ryan is going to discuss the comparison between this and its predecessor. So, I really enjoy the actions in this game. I like how you get to choose an action, and then everybody also gets to take that action, but you get like an extra super action of that. But it's also really interesting in a good way. There's a turn order from it. So everybody's playing these cards, and you have to buy a card first. You have to do the 1 or 2 action, even though you really wish you could do the 4 action because you need money. You need the production to be able to play the cards that you want to play. But it doesn't matter because you have to play those cards first before you can do that. Thought that was really cool, and I really like that you're always doing something on your turn. You're always producing. You're always just making things happen. And there are so many cards in this game. It's kind of a table hog. There's ways that you can arrange it to where it's not a table hog. I did not do that in our first play, and I just was like spreading the cards out all over the table. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely hilarious. And then I looked at Ryan, who had them in these neat little piles that made a lot of sense. And I was like, I've already started this. I might as well just finish. But there are so many cards, so I feel like that's great because when you're trying to go for sets or something, you're going to come across those. There's so many ways to draw cards and get through cards. I mean, I feel like in our first play, which is just a 2-player game, we went through like half the deck. Right. Like, you go through these cards, you're going to see the things that you need to see. And I really like how the game progressed, how it ramped up, and how even though you're still playing just those same actions over and over again, what you're able to do is more and greater through that. But it makes sense. You have those tracks down at the smallest, and they're building up, so you can play other cards, so you know what cards to keep, get rid of. And even with that, I thought that the iconography on that made a lot of sense to me as well. I knew when I needed to play a card, how I needed to play a card, and it made sense with the length, with how the game progressed. And then lastly, I really enjoyed the length of play for the complexity of the game. I really like it when games mesh that way, where the complexity matches how long I think the game should be, and I felt like that this matched that, how the game ramped up, all the cards, and then how difficult it was kind of matched how long I thought the game should be.
So I have played this a number of times. I have played the original Terraforming Mars a number of times as well. So I just figured I'd talk a little bit about what's different about them, what one is best for you, right? So first of all, there's 3 end game triggers. There is the raising of the oxygen. There's the raising of the temperature. Both of those work very similar in both games. The third one is the oceans. And those are a little bit different. The oceans in Ares Expedition was simply a little kind of small board in the middle, and whenever you had a card or an effect that lets you do an ocean, you would flip over a tile and it would give you some kind of a rewards, but also like give you some of those terraforming rating points. In the original game, you actually had this larger, more expansive board, and on it you had cities, you had your greenery tiles, you had oceans, spots on the board designated for oceans, and then also you had other kind of special tiles that you could add in, like volcanoes or whatever it was. So you had lots of different things kind of textured onto this board, and the oceans were just one small part of that. Distilling it down to just having the oceans be the only thing on the board was, I felt like there was something a little bit missing. I missed having a little bit of area control, or not really area control per se, but trying to manipulate the boards that you had all the greenery tiles next to your cities, that you get more points that way as well. So I felt like that was a little bit missing here. The player boards are very similar, right? You had the production tracks on one side, and then the actual resources themselves, what you had earned with your production over here during the production phases. So that was operated very similarly. The difference obviously being, instead of having a production phase just kind of always happening at the beginning of every turn, no, you had to choose the production phase with those action selection cards. So those action selection cards, Bethany kind of mentioned them as well, but not everything happens every time. It's only what players select. So I liked kind of having that. That was a nice little touch, kind of that Race for the Galaxy or Puerto Rico style actions.
Yeah.
was a really nice choice here. The steel and titanium worked a little bit differently. Instead of having them be resources, they were more like kind of like discounts that were always there for you, which was nice, but because there wasn't as many of them, so it kind of balanced and made sense to me. There's a whole lot of cards in the original game. It's a I would call it a card game, even though it's got a board as well. There's just thousands of cards, it feels like. And this was the same way. It had just so many cards. So I guess my final question would be, why does a game like this exist? And I know this is not everyone's opinion, right? But this is my opinion.
That's what makes it yours.
There was that trend for a while going like, okay, we're going to make Castles of Burgundy, and everyone loves it, right? And then, everyone likes it so much, let's make it different. Let's make a Castles of Burgundy the card game.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. Sorry. I know we're talking about this game, but Castles of Burgundy, the card game, like, the gameplay was fine, but it took up, like, more space on the table than just Castles of Burgundy. Why? Why would you do that in a card game? Why?
All right, so there's Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, right? So they were this trend of making bigger games into smaller games, so they were kind of scratch the same itch, but maybe for a lower price or for less table space, less time, things like that. So this was kind of doing that as well, right? Or, you get a chance to play the card version of Terraforming Mars. But this is still a card game no matter what. There's still a ton of cards in this. It still takes up a ton of space on the table. It still takes roughly the same amount of time, maybe a little less. So I don't know why this game exists. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. But Terraforming Mars did so much of the same things and a little bit better, in my opinion. So did this need to be boiled down to make a smaller version of it? I don't personally think so. Maybe if the price point was an issue for you, this is a great option, a great way to get a similar experience in a smaller price tag.
Yeah.
Maybe if the box size is a little smaller, fits on your shelf better. Who knows what the deal is? But for me personally, if I had to choose between the two, I'm going to take the larger, richer experience of Terraforming Mars as opposed to the Ares Expedition because of all the things I just said. This is a fine game. I really enjoy it. I've played it several times. If I had no idea that Terraforming Mars existed, this is the only game I had access to, I would love it. I would rank it well every time.
So it's funny that you say that because I've played Terraforming Mars once, and it was like 5-6 years ago, right?
Okay.
And I liked it. I remember liking it. I actually don't remember the cards. I just remember that huge board. But if I'm presented with both of these games, I'm going to choose this one. Like, I enjoyed it. I liked that I understood it. I liked I know there's a ton of cards, but like I just got it, and I like the amount of time it took to play and set up this game. So that's just really funny because if I'm presented with these options, I'm going to choose this one. And there's so many expansions to Terraforming Mars that I feel like those who are really huge fans of the game also own all of those expansions, and it's kind of hard to just start with all of that, and you can just start with this. So like
That's a great point, actually.
I kind of feel like this is the one that I would gravitate towards.
That's a great point. You know, if you have someone you and your play group are really, really familiar with all the Terraforming Mars all in, and you have someone new who's going to play with you, you're like, oh shoot, you know, we have to sort it all out, and you know, it'll take forever. How about we all just play this one?
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. So yeah, they're both viable games. This one is a smidge faster, a smidge smaller, but overall, they're both great games. I'm choosing Terraforming Mars. She's choosing Ares Expedition. Take that for what it is. What are you choosing? That's what we want to know.
What game are
if you have
you
experience
choosing?
with both games, what would you play? Put us in the comment below. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'll see what your favorites are.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can follow us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.